Good evening. It is Friday, December 24th, Christmas Eve of 2021. This is meteorologist Shay Gibson of WeatherFlow bringing you a wind forecast for tomorrow for Christmas Day and beyond. We'll talk about the next couple of days as well as we get into a warming trend that lasts likely through the end of the year, a very unseasonal pattern that's developing over us. And we'll talk about why in just a minute. I know that some kiteboarders today were asking me about the winds tomorrow, and there are some models, lots of model agreement, and the winds coming up from the west southwest or southwest. And we'll have to talk about some of the cautionary flags that go up when we get into marine layering and warmer air temperatures than over the sea surface temperatures. So we'll get into that in a minute. But for nearshore fishing and offshore fishing, I'd say after tomorrow, it looks pretty good. Looks like low waves, low swell, and pretty nice weather. So let's go ahead and dive in. Let me pull myself down here to the corner. Talk about what's going on currently with the WPC surface map. We have high pressure that's built over the Bahamas. So we call this Bohemian high pressure. And a lot of times what we get is we get a link from the northern Gulf of Mexico to over here, and we get a ridge that builds down below us, which causes this west-southwest flow over us. Especially with the front dropping in towards the Appalachians, this pinches the gradients in between to get more of almost a semi-zonal flow. Zonal is being westerly, and we get that kind of curve in the wind. Now, aloft, we're going to be seeing strong westerlies and even northwesterlies, and we'll look at the sounding here in just a minute. But I think it's important to know that this is going to be the driving pattern for the next several days. Tomorrow looking the most impressive on the wind simply because the gradient builds from mostly Bahamian high pressure. Now, as the ridge flattens, that's why winds tend to die down. Some models are showing that, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. Let's look at some of the rationale behind this. And what we have is a subtropical jet that has basically surged up and over us, right? So we're caught in the warm sector down below, and a lot of times we don't see this in the winter. Usually we see the polar jet diving down from the north, and from this direction we get cold air that settles over us. At least, maybe not so much freezing, but we get a cold air pattern over us, and a lot of times that comes down from the northern tier, kind of goes like this in this fashion. This is a typical pattern, and then maybe this will transition towards the east, and then we get a warm up. But this is a major, this is a really big warming surge around this upper jet, this subtropical jet. And so what happens is all this southerly flow and southwesterly flow from the Gulf of Mexico heads our way. So not much rain to speak of because high pressure for the most part is fairly dry. We may see a few clouds diving down over the area from the west or the northwest from time to time. In fact, we can see that right now where some of that northwesterly flow is showing some mid-level stratus clouds coming across North Carolina, and we see a few upper cirrus down our way. We saw some mare's tails up in the sky earlier, but no mackerel scale, so no. But that would be consistent with high winds because the saying is mare's tails and mackerel scales make tall ships carry low sails, and so that's the pattern. But I think no storms in our forecast, maybe just some high winds. Let's take a look at the GFS. Here's some of the upper level winds at 250 millibars. This is about 36,000 feet up. And we start to look at the pattern. You can see as we go into tomorrow how that surge is occurring with the subtropical jet rising up and over. So you can see it even more so now as we get into Monday and Tuesday, where that warm air just continues to surge up over our area and hold it all the way through the end of the year, where we start to see a little bit of a break in the pattern, probably by the first or the second as things start to wind down. But that's the pattern. It's really this is not something we would normally see. I mean, we've seen a couple of days here and there over Christmas, but if you remember 2017 leading into 18 when we had the snowstorm in January is a whole different story. We were very cold going into Christmas. So it looks like this is going to be the pattern. We'll be in the 70s, near 70 tomorrow, in the low 70s all the way through January the 1st, and 69 by January the 1st. But either way, we're looking at 70s each day. What does that mean? We look at the winds over the area. Our sea surface temperatures are rather cool at about 57.5 degrees as of this morning. And we can even take a look down into the area if we drill in higher resolution. We look at the French Quarter gauge, and it's about 56.8, so actually a little bit lower from that cooler air shot from last night, pushing down as well. We probably won't see lows that low for some time. But either way, the sea surface temperatures are 56.8. So when we get air temperatures going above maybe 8 to 10 miles, I'm sorry, 8 to 10 um, degrees higher than the sea surface temperatures, we start to see where the water wants to stabilize. So the higher the air temperature goes, the more stable the water wants to become. So you end up getting what's called a shallow marine layer on these really sunny, dry days. And it's hard for that wind to make it down when you have that cold air creates a boundary across the top of it. that just does not allow that heating to couple with the air above it. And so that's why it's called decoupling, because a lot of times what you end up with is the beaches of even a forecast of 20 knots, the beaches may be right about where they are now, 6 to 8 knots, and it'll stay low. But now as winds come across land and then settle back down over water, this is what creates instability over the water. This is why the harbor sometimes can get a lot stronger than along the beaches where the winds are coming in straight off the ocean, which is more stable. Once it hits land, it mixes down, and the heating element from the land being hotter than the water creates this coupling over the water across the harbor. Rather gusty, but I'd say if we have west-southwest flow, you might be better off heading maybe Fort Moultrie or some of these other spots inside the harbor. And we could get those winds up to the low to mid-teens along the beaches as well. Let's take a look at the models real quick. I'll look at the Isle of Palms first, and we'll go over to Folly. And it looks like we have, let's see, run all the models here. Looks like we see basically by tomorrow around 1 o'clock p.m. there's a lot of agreement. All the models are in agreement in at least 14 to 15 knots as a base. So we're looking at 15 to 20 knots as your forecast from the southwest. Now that will depend if it's dry enough, we may not have that decoupling, or it may just be like 12 to 16 knots at the beaches, but we could get a marine layer or even thicker, maybe even fog along the beaches, and that may just decouple winds altogether, where we end up with like 7 to 11 knots. Now, inside the harbor, I would believe this forecast. In fact, I might go up a little higher to 17 to 21 knots inside the harbor, simply because of the mixing factor. So kind of a roll of the dice tomorrow. We don't have a lot of low-level jetting that's forcing that wind down. The air is drier overall, but we have seen shallow marine layers develop that have decoupled those winds one too many times. So if I were you, I would plan on going on an inside spot. Just watch the sensors, I'd say by 9 or 10 a.m. If you see the winds keep going up by 11 o'clock, then you're probably good. Now, if we get the peak heating and you see the winds coming back down again, that means we're starting to see that marine layer build in. So, it's a very tricky situation for tomorrow, but it looks pretty optimistic overall. Just near shore, for the near shore fishermen, for the jetties, we do have a short period wind swell, waves about 1 to 2 feet. In fact, if we go out for the next several days, it looks rather flat. We have a little bit of a build tomorrow just from the winds, and then things look rather flat. I'd say, knee high at the most, all the way through the 29th. So it doesn't look like there's going to be a lot of waves or any kind of ground swell building from any offshore storms. It just doesn't look like that's going to happen. If we look at the tides, looks like tides will be normal for the next several days as well. Nothing to be concerned about, just your daily iterations of normal tides, which for once we've gotten out of the shallow coastal flooding. We were in that for a spat a couple weeks back, but either way, we're good to go. So again, looking at the wind forecast, and looking at Folly Beach. Folly is always a little bit more optimistic because it juts out into the ocean a little bit more. We're probably going to see a little bit more wind out there than we would at Isle of Palms if the marine layer doesn't kill it. So I think that's going to do it for the forecast today, but I wish everybody a Merry Christmas tomorrow. I hope everyone gets some good time with their families or good time with friends and loved ones, whatnot. And I always appreciate your support here in the Chucktown Wind Report. Everybody take care. I'm going to go finish getting ready for my kids and have a good Christmas tomorrow. So I probably won't be out on the water, but either way, everybody that goes, have a good time, stay safe. And even if you're fishing or doing anything else, sailing, stay safe there as well. All right, everybody, take care. Merry Christmas, and I'll see you soon.